Yo, what's going on, everybody? It has been a long time, but it is 1 p.m. here in Crystal Lake, Illinois. It means it's time for another live stream. Today is Tuesday, December something. What is it? Tuesday, December 6th, 2022. I've lost track of days. I've been traveling for a long time, and I'm way off schedule, but I'm here now with you guys, and boy, have I missed you. A lot has happened since the last time we hung out. We had TRE in Austin, the running event, and then I went from there straight to CIM. But now I'm back. So plenty to talk about. I think today, if you guys are dying to talk about CIM, and if you guys ran CIM and had some PRs, I'd love to hear about those. Or if you just had a good time out there, I'd love to hear about that. But today I'll kind of focus on TRE just to make things more manageable. Although we can kind of jump back and forth because, I'm not very disciplined when it comes to that kind of thing. But first, before we get into it, let's talk to everyone that's running or listening to the podcast, the audio only version. Hope you guys are having a good run out there today. Today, I'm taking another day off because my legs kind of want it, although I'm kind of feeling good too. But I feel like it's good for the brain, good for the mind to take a day off. So maybe it is your day off, or maybe you're running. Either way, hopefully you're having a good one. And everyone watching this on YouTube later after the fact, hopefully the cleaning is going well. Maybe you just got back from CIM too, and your house is, a little bit disheveled because your partner took care of everything while you were gone with the family and the kids. And so it's okay if the house is a mess and you're happy to roll up your sleeves and dig in. That's the situation for me. Hope that's going on for you. And it's going smoothly, All right, let's see who we got here in the chat. Dr. Josh is here. He says, my hamstrings are still shot. Oh man, it was a good day to run though, wasn't it? Yeah. But Dr. Josh, I thought I saw you. I don't think I saw you at all weekend, but I think I saw you while I was on my bus, and I feel like you were coming back from the bathrooms. Were you in the seated crowd? Because then if you were, then it wouldn't have been you. But I thought I saw a guy, and I was gonna bang on the windows, but our bus was all foggy, so I was like, that's just gonna scare somebody. So I didn't do that. But oh man, I hope you had a good day. All right, who else we got in here? We got Martha's in here. I see Martha. And Scott Stroll says CIM is now his PR marathon. Yeah, good job, Scott. Awesome. I will say it was good to see everyone out there. I saw Leona. I saw Terrence. I saw Martha out there. I saw Mark. I saw Mark in the chat here today too. Got to run with Mark for quite a bit until he took off. He just went, and he was looking strong. And I also got to run with Matt for quite a while as well. So that was really cool to run with the Kofuzi Run Club. And I thought really fitting since I had the Kofuzi Run Club singlet that Greg had made for me. So really fun day. Hope you guys are recovering well. All right. Sober Gummy wants to know, how did the weather turn out for the race? It was looking ominous the week prior. It did look ominous. And Austin was so cold, and I was like, everything's just cold, and I'm underdressed for all this weather. It's colder than it was in Chicago when I left, and I'm wearing Texas winter clothes or California winter clothes. So I was just cold for an entire week, just cold to the bone. But even though it drizzled and even rained a little bit on the drive up to Folsom, by the times we got off the bus, rain stopped. Temperatures were pretty much perfect for racing. So we had really good weather. Okay, Dr. Josh says, I was staying in Folsom, so it was hard getting to the shakeout, and he was in the seated crowd. So it must have, I'm glad I didn't bang on the door for that person, because that person would have been like, who's Dr. Josh? I would have terrified someone. Yeah. All right. Martha says the weather was miraculous. Cold and very rainy, so we got wet waiting for the bus. Then it stopped exactly at the start time, like a parting of the Red Sea. A lot of people have mentioned that it was just gun goes off, skies open, clouds opened up, but it was brighter than last year. I'm looking back at the footage, and part of it might be the difference in cameras that I'm using, but it definitely had more light. And then for me, around mile, 18, 17, started getting sunny. So the weather definitely changed to become a really nice day. And by the time I finished, I was like, ooh, this is nice. If I stood in the sun, I could have a beer after the race. If I stood in the shade, I was too cold. But yeah. All right. Yeah, Leona says we had some blue skies. Didn't need to put on the gloves again when we got into Sacramento. Yeah, there you go. And Aaron says, I ran for the last 8 hours of my 50 miler. Whew, that's tough. Were you at the same one? Because I thought I saw Chase's Summit. I thought David was out there for a race this last weekend. Were you at the same one? I wonder. Tracy said, I didn't think I was going to end up needing sunglasses. Here's the thing. When I saw the sun come out, I started feeling terrible because I had been meeting up with Ed Goddard, who is an Australian marathoner for ASICS, and he's been getting profiled on Sweat Elite. And so I had, I guess this is spilling the tea from CIM, but I had messaged him. He had messaged me if I was going to be at like CIM and stuff like that. I'm like, I met this guy in Malaga, like in April. And we haven't had much interaction since, but he's like messaging me and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be there and all this stuff. And he was having some problems with his bib because it was the USATF Marathon Championships. And so they like didn't want to let him line up at the front because they only wanted the USATF Marathon Championships racers to be there, even though he was not the only non-American in the elite corral. They were giving him a hard time. Anyway, we're going back and forth discussing this, and I'm like, I don't know what you think I do, Ed, but this is like outside of my pay grade. But anyway, I'd be meeting up with him, and I met up with him the night before, right after the technical meeting, and I interviewed him for Sweat Elite. So it's not my footage, it's Sweat Elite's footage. And I just sent it out to them yesterday. And he's like, what do you think about the weather tomorrow? Because I'd been posting on my Instagram stories about the weather. And so he asked me, like the day before the race, what do you think about the weather tomorrow? I'm like, I think it's going to be dark. It's going to be really dark. I know he loves to run in giant Oakley sunglasses. And I'm like, he may be an Oakley sponsored athlete. He was down in Santa Barbara. No, not Santa Barbara, Santa Monica, Venice. I don't know where. I think there's an Oakley office down there. So he was down there before he went into Sacramento. And I'm like, you're not going to be able to wear your Oakleys. And he's like, oh, really? He's like, maybe I'll wear eye black. And I'm like, I don't know. He wants to have something on his eyes. And he's just like, I'm like, it's going to be dark the entire time. If it stops raining, it's going to be cloudy. So he's like, okay. So he didn't wear his sunglasses. That's his signature thing. And then it got sunny. So I'm like, oh man, I hope he was at least fast enough to finish before it got sunny so he's not mad at me. Frank says, I'd rather have my sunglasses on in the rain than not have them in the sun. Yeah, that's a good, I should have asked him if he would have felt that way. He thought about it, but I was like, you're going to have bad footing because it could be slippery on the downhills in the beginning half of the race. And that's when it's going to be the darkest. I'm like, it's going to be dark. Yeah. So hopefully he's not mad at me. I went out with him and his agent and another runner for dinner after the race. So I don't think he's that mad at me. Dr. Josh says, the uphills got me more than the downhills in the race. Yeah, Ed was also complaining because if you look at your Strava for it, I'll show you guys my Strava from the race. It looks like a very downhill race. And the way I think of it as the first half is basically flat or even. I don't consider it like a downhill race because there's just so much uphill that goes along with it too. Let me see if I can find that downhill. Here we go, the elevation. So here's what the elevation looks like. There you go. See, it looks like you're like rolling downhill. But I feel like the first half, in terms of what it feels like on your legs, the uphills, it hurts. And so don't think that you're going to be able to bank some time in the beginning because of the hills. If you can run an even split race, that's a challenge, I think, at that course. So the uphills will get you. I have like 900 feet downhill, 600 feet uphill. So it sounds nicer when Ed was talking about it. He's like, oh, it's only like 173 meters or something. I'm like, it's a lot, dude. Don't underestimate it. So I was like, I didn't want to be like, didn't you see my race recap video from last year? But a lot of people that are not like Kofuzi subscribers saw last year's race recap and were like, I've been studying that video because it was the most in-depth breakdown of the race. And I was like, oh, thanks guys. Hope you had a good race then. So yeah. All right. I see some, Moonwalker says, hey Kofuzi, I'm running 2023 Berlin Marathon, but going through a tour package. Nice. Brian Tamarine saying I'm in for Berlin. Berlin notifications went out over the last week since the last we got together. I did not get in. The image they sent out on the header was it was like someone that like DNF'd. It's like collapsed along the side of the race. And like that's the header image for unfortunately you did not get in. Germans, I think, are very literal. They're like, we need an image that shows disappointment. So let's show one with someone having a near medical emergency. And I put on my like Instagram story, I was like, you could just not have a header image. You don't have to have a header image. Oh man, that was so fun. All right, let's see. Anyone? Oh, Stevie76 says, I detrimentally relied on the advice of an American named Kofuzi. Yeah. Yeah. An American non-elite 3-hour runner named Kofuzi. Yeah, I think that'd be pretty funny. But yeah, he was in good spirits. He was in good spirits afterward. He was with the lead pack, and then at some point he said he twisted his ankle on a traffic cone. And I'm like, Ed, how do you not see a traffic cone? It's meant to be seen. He's like, I don't know. And then his agent pulled up like the actual footage of the moment it happened. And I was like, oh, Jesus, Ed, come on. He's young. I think he's only like a year out of college. So he's like, I could be his dad. He's younger than I am by a little bit. But yeah, it was fun. And for some reason, 3 Americans in the car and Ed was the one driving. He's like, so he picks me up at my hotel and I get in the car and he goes, this is the first time I've driven on the right-hand side of the road. And I'm like, what? It's like, oh boy, I know it's not that different, but like, I mean, it would weird me out if I were driving like in London. So I don't know. It was an adventure. Yeah, see, the traffic cone came out of nowhere. Yeah. Yeah, Luke Line says, how do you come up on a traffic cone? They're designed to be seen. He was at the front of the pack too, so it's not like the pack like suddenly diverted around it. So I don't know. Adam says, the uphills shouldn't hurt more than the downs. We're at the same effort, not pace, not the eccentric pounding of the downs. Yeah, I mean, I feel fine. I actually feel better. I think part of it is I didn't. And we'll talk about it more in my race recap. But like like mentally, I think I was spent. I don't know if my body had more than a 304, 30 something in it for yesterday or 2 days ago. But like my mind didn't have that. It didn't have that ability to dig deep. And so like today, I feel my legs feel great. I mean, relatively speaking, but like the equivalent amount of time, 2 days after the race, I felt worse after New York than CIM. New York was a 333. CIM was a 304. So, yeah. All right. Oh, Leona says, Terrence isn't here, but he uploaded Matt Chim's interview of Mike at the Expo. It's on Terrence Huey's YouTube channel. Awesome. Yeah, that was fun. I got to sit down with Matt for a little bit, and I got to meet Allison Marilla Desir because she went right before me. And after she finished talking, there was like a minute before I had to go up. And she's like, it's so good to finally meet you in person. And we had been talking on Twitter for a while. And she's like, it took me a long time to figure out that person is the same as you. And I was like, oh, okay. But because my Twitter handle is a little bit different than Kofuzi. And so I'm like, yeah, that's been me the whole time. And she's like, yeah, once I put it together, it all made sense. But she's like, it's good to see you. And then she stuck around for my talk as well, or my interview part as well. So that was really flattering. That was really nice of her because I know she had her own booth where she was like selling her book and like signing copies and stuff. So, you know, I appreciate that she spent some, and she did that right after she talked. So I'm sure everyone like went right over to her booth afterwards, but instead she took the time to listen to me talk for a little bit. So that was really cool. So it was really cool. And that was always fun talking to Matt too. All right. Eric says, TRE, TRE, TRE. He said it 3 times. Yeah, so I got three funny stories. Well, 2 are funny and 1 is kind of annoying. One of them you'll kind of hear about when you watch the video tomorrow, but I'll go with the first one. It's embarrassing for me. So you guys remember I interviewed Sydney Gidabude. He used to be a 10-man elite, and now he runs for Roots Running. Yeah, I think it's with Richie Hansen, right? And that Roots Running group has Sydney Gidabude, Frank Lara, Parker Stinson, and Noah Droddy, and a handful of other people too. I'm at the expo, and I'm walking around, and at the Garmin booth, I see Sid and Frank Lara, like just walking around. They were hanging out. So I kind of like stopped them. They were talking to the Garmin guy, and I totally like interrupted. It was super rude. But I was just like, me, Drew, and Ashley were on the way somewhere, and I saw them out of the corner. I was like, oh, dude. I was like, I didn't know if they were going to be like at the Ultra booth for a while or what, because they're both Ultra athletes. And so I was like, oh, I see you now. Like, I wanted to say hi. I'm fans of both of you guys. I don't think I'd seen Sid in person since I'd interviewed him. So I just wanted to say hi and stuff. And also like ask him again when he's going to run a marathon. And so I'm talking to Sid and I'm like talking to him for a while. And then I turn to Frank Lara, and I go, and I've been following your running for a little while now too. I love what both of you guys are doing. With Roots Running, saw him at I think he was at Marathon Project. I think he ran Houston last year too. I didn't say those things, but I think those are some of his more recent races. And the whole time he's kind of giving me this, he's looking at me hard. He's not looking at me like I'm a fan. And so I'm just getting a weird vibe from him. And I'm about to be the conversation's kind of wrapping up. I'm about to ask for the selfie. And at that moment before I do that, he's like, you had a support issue with Strava a little while ago, didn't you? And I'm like, I did. And I was like, oh no, I forgot. Half of Boulder works part-time in Strava support. Sydney works in Strava support. And so Frank goes, I know this because you had a problem with your run club event, and I was the one that answered it. I'm like, no, it wasn't. I was talking with Fred. And I was like, oh, you go by Fred when you're answering support emails. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, so this issue happened for Chicago when we were doing the pizza shakeout run. And I had written the wrong date in the written description. The actual event was correct, but the written description was wrong, or maybe vice versa. I think vice versa. And so by the time I had realized the mistake, 30 people had RSVP'd. And then I corrected the mistake. I hit the edit button to correct it, and then all those RSVPs wiped out. And then another 70 people had RSVP'd on top of that. And I was going back and forth. I'm like, I don't know where this is. And now New Balance is trying to get me to update the descriptions to give the full product names of the shoes they're going to give away. So it was for New York because it was New Balance. It was for New York. And so I was like, I need the sponsor needs to know how many people to expect because they're bringing food and they're making sure there's enough space for everyone. And and I have to update these product names. This just doesn't make sense. I don't know what's going to happen if I edit it again. Will I get back the other 30 that I lost earlier? Will it be 70? Will all of them go away? I can't make people RSVP twice. And I'm freaking out over it. And he's been very patient the whole time and all this. And after a while, all right, all right, I'm going to hit the edit button. I'm going to do it. And I tell him that I did it and it worked out fine. It's okay. I don't know where those original 30 are, but at least the 70 are still there. He's like, well, glad it's resolved. And I can't just leave it alone because I'm annoyed about it. And I'm like, yeah, this is clearly a bug. This needs to be fixed. I hope this is fixed soon. So I'm just grumpy about it. And I wasn't mean, but I wasn't nice. And then I was a keyboard warrior. And of course, now I'm meeting the person face to face. That's my Strava support person. And not only that, it's a professional marathoner who I'm, supposedly a fan of. So. So that was really embarrassing. And he kept saying it's totally cool. His words were all really nice, but his eyes just boom, laser beams. He was mad. Oh my God. Oh my God. No one knows what I'm talking about? You guys don't know what I'm talking about? Oh man. I think that's a funny story. It's a funny story. Yeah. I got mad at Strava support, and it turned out to be a professional marathoner. CV76, did I give him 5? CV76, did I give him 5 stars? I don't think that they ever asked for feedback on the support. Tommy says, I'm following 100%. I think Tommy's making fun of me, but yeah. Yeah, Martha's like, now I get it. Yeah, so that's story number one. So really embarrassing. Because I'm thinking, like, what I'd love to do is pitch the idea of, like, going out and, like, following Roots running for a little while in a Sweat Elite style. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how, like, what kind of my travel availability is, but I'd love the idea of, like, following a smaller group through some of their training sessions. Not exactly like Sweat Elite, more like my style of it, which would be less what's the mechanics of the workout, but what's more like the mechanics of the lifestyle, you know? But, yeah. Yeah. So, and Roots would be one because I like all the guys on that squad. So it's like, I'm probably not going to get asked to go over there anytime soon. All right. All right. What's the other story that I was going to tell you? Oh my goodness. One other story that I'll tell you. I think I could tell you this without violating any embargoes myself. So Tommy says, my favorite TRE moments are the ones I catch you Kofuzi. Tommy spent the week trying to catch me filming, but I would always be filming him already. So he would have phone in pocket, but I'd get him first. So it's kind of like a quick draw. I mean, we're in Austin, right? So it's like, you know, who's the quick draw? I'm a quick draw. All right. Let's see. Tracy said, speaking of Roots running, I saw Dradi. I was waiting at the exchange and can tell he was hurting. Felt so bad for him. Yeah, I think he dropped at 16 or so. He said that his injury, his leg was still bothering him. So, yeah, it was tough. I really wanted him to do well. He had a super shoe, a secret super shoe on that I didn't get to see in Austin because it was in a room where they said no cameras are allowed in there. So I'm like, then I'm just not gonna go in there because I don't like dealing with the embargoes and stuff. So it's like if it's really under embargo, I kind of don't want to see it. But this is a nice segue to my second story for today. Second story is so we go to the Saucony booth, and the Saucony booth had the Kinvara Pro, which is a confusing name to me. The shoe makes sense. The name is confusing. I'm not sure why they called it Pro, especially because they were going to have a shoe called the Triumph Plus, which was like a super stack version of the Triumph. So not even just max cushion, super stack version. But they've scrapped that project, or it's not going to be ready for 2023. So I'm super confused by Kinvara Pro. We're talking about it. And they were like, and you guys might also be interested in this other shoe that's under embargo. So as long as you don't take any pictures of it, we can show it to you. And so they show it to us. It's a size 9, so I try it on. And Ashley's close enough to a size 9, so she tries it on too. And she's like, yeah, we just wanted to be really careful because someone has already leaked it. It's already on the internet. People have seen it on the internet, but like someone here leaked it too. And they were really upset about it. I was like, was it Thomas? And like the person at Saucony kind of smiled and kind of didn't acknowledge it. And I was like, it was Thomas, wasn't it? And she was like, yeah, it was Believe in the Run. And so later on that evening at the Brooks party, I see Thomas and I'm like, dude, you messed up. You totally leaked a photo. And he's like, no, it's not our fault. He blames Connor at Running Warehouse. He said, Connor had a whole video, a Running Warehouse video on that shoe. It was up on their website. So I thought, if that's up, then I could put my stuff up. And so he's like, it was at the Saucony party the night before. And I was like, I don't remember seeing, I didn't look at the shoes on the wall at the Saucony party, but like, he's like, he said he took the picture from there, or maybe he uploaded it from there. I don't know. But anyway, he was like, I only did it because Connor did it, so I did it too. So if you ask Saucony, Thomas is the leak. If you ask Thomas, Connor is the leak. But in either event, I think it's super hilarious because, I don't know, I just think it's fun to give Thomas a hard time. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Let's see. Sorry. I was rambling on, so I'm catching up to you guys in the chat. JC wants to know, curious where you ran in Austin. This time we just stayed around the lake on the footpath. So the one day we ran over to where the Christmas lights are. And then that was with the Saucony RIDC, running Industry Diversity Council shakeout run. And then the one that I did was just like around the lake. And then the one with Puma was also on the lake. I think overlapped on my route, the same, or my route overlapped on theirs. I don't care. And then the one with, yeah, so those are the 3 runs that I did. And then the one that I did I did Take the Bridge with Solomon. That one, I was like running through the Capitol grounds and then by the medical center and then through a park under a bridge. There was a spot where like people were skateboarding at night with like glow sticks on. It was weird. So those are the places I ran. Yeah. Martha wants to know, where does Jody live? He's in Boulder. He may have been in my Denver flight. Crutches and 1 foot in a soft cast. I mean, he's a tall guy with glasses and a mustache, but I guess like he kind of looks like everyone from Boulder. Last year on the way back from CIM, he did the TRE CIM double last year because I think his partner was running it. So I don't think he was running CIM last year, but he came out for the race. And I didn't see him at TRE last year. He didn't go this year, but I didn't see him at TRE last year, but I know he was working he was at the booth, not working the booth, like giving presentations, but like at the booth, kind of like Frank and Sydney were. And I don't remember which flight it was, but it was either the flight from Austin to California or from California back to Chicago. And I think I stopped through Denver. I'm in line getting to get onto the airplane. And I see this dude in front of me. He's got, black hair with a little bit of gray in it. Solomon head to toe, like hat, jacket, backpack, shoes. And I'm like, this guy loves Solomon. And then like after we've already boarded the plane, I think he ended up sitting like right behind me. After we boarded the plane, I'm like, oh, that's Noah Andrade. Okay. Out of context, he just looks like a normal guy. You know? So, I mean, what does a marathoner look like? But like, yeah. So it's very easy to be like, oh, he's just a dude traveling, you know? All right. Yeah. Luke Klein says it was the Believe in the Run guys that leaked the photo. Did you guys see it? Did you guys see the photo? I didn't see it. People were like telling me about all this stuff that's happening. I'm like, guys, I'm freaking busy here. I don't have time to be like on my phone looking at other people's stuff. But I guess, yeah. Frank says, is it either Believe in the Run or Alex Fatiti? Seems like Alex had vids of every shoe. Yeah, he does have a video. I met Alex. He interviewed me for his channel. We had set that up like months ago. But yeah, it was cool to finally meet him in person because we've been interacting like on YouTube and on Instagram for a while. So it was nice to see him there. But yeah, he was posting everything. And he had like a film crew with him. And I'm just like, and that's how like Thomas was all weekend too. Like I didn't see Thomas. I saw Thomas at a shakeout run. But like that's it. You know, and we hung out quite a bit at the Brooks party. But it was just like everyone's working, they're just jamming so hard. And it's like, I take a very different approach to it. Just because I don't have the discipline for the way that other people approach it. But man, like, especially the European or the foreign YouTubers and media, like this is their chance to see stuff, you know? And so like it would be like you'd watch them sit down at the meeting and then immediately after they'd be on camera holding the shoe, talking about it in a completely different language. And it's just amazing. So it was pretty impressive. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff that's happening. A lot of stuff that went up and then had to come back down really fast. I just think that's so funny. And you know what? I don't think we're trying to move fast. You know, I don't think anyone's breaking embargoes intentionally. And this leads me into my third story. I don't think anyone's breaking embargoes intentionally, but people are moving fast. There's a lot of stuff that's being like discussed and announced. And some of the brands do not have their stuff together in terms of what's under embargo and what's not. And some brands are being super weird about it, where they're like, you can show it photos, but not videos, which I'm like, what? I mean, a photo is worse than a video because the photo, you can zoom in on it, you know, like, anyway, there's different rules. You could talk about it, but not film it. You could film it, but don't review it. Just couple of glance shots and that's fine, you know. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. Yeah, Martha says, in fact, in Believe in the Run's TRE podcast, Thomas talked about the YouTubers who videoed embargoed shoes. Did he talk about me? I didn't listen to it because I didn't run this week. Or I didn't run yesterday, so I don't know. I'll have to listen to that. But, yeah, so there's a lot of different things on the embargoes. And the last story that I'll tell you guys today. This one's not as funny. This one's kind of like annoying. And I'll vent to you guys. Because I already vented to my wife. And I'm still mad about it. And I'm trying to be as professional as I can. But we went to the Adidas booth. And in the Adidas booth, we went up. They talked to us about all the shoes that were on display. We're not talking about like secret shoes from a back room, stuff that someone had to go get that they asked you not to film, stuff that was on the wall. We're just walking up to it, picking it up off the wall and looking at it. And it was a variety of shoes that I'm all very excited about. And I made a reel about it. It did really well, like 60,000 views in like a couple of days. That's pretty good for me. And I get a message yesterday as I'm on my flight leaving back to come back home. And it's some PR person. And she's like, yeah, can you take that down? And I'm like, our team got too excited and got confused on what's under embargo. And they shouldn't have let you videotape those things. So can you take it down? And I'm like, fine. And I'm thinking maybe it's the Adios Pro 4 that's the problem. Maybe I could save the reel, just switch out a couple of clips and repost the reel because the rest of the reel was good. Because they had mentioned that the Adios Pro 4 is not near final yet because they have to redo the foam. It's not meeting their durability standards. So the foam's great, but they want it to last a little bit longer. And she emails me back a list. And I'm like, and can you email me instead of direct messaging me? So that way, like, I won't miss the email. And she emails me a list of every single shoe that I have in the video is on the list of stuff that's under embargo. I'm like, this is kind of ridiculous. So, like, I did try to be like, is there any way you guys, Adidas would reconsider? Like, I've made a lot of Adidas content before. It does really well. My audience is very supportive of the Adidas product. We're very excited to see what's coming up next. What I'm going to do is really very, very brief in that, like, a couple of glances at the product and just a general notation that I'm going to be excited to talk about it, excited to test it in the future. I get an email back this morning and she's like, no, I'm afraid not. No. So I don't know. In my mind, I didn't say this to her and I just said, I understand. I'll comply. I wanted to add many more things to that, but I didn't. But in my mind, it feels like someone agreed to sit down. Like, let's say I was like a real journalist and someone sat down and agreed to be interviewed on camera about a topic. And then later on thought, ooh, I'm not sure I'm going to show up well in that. That was actually all an off-the-record discussion. That's kind of how it feels for me. So I'm pretty annoyed about it. So I'm trying to be as professional as I can. I feel like from a media journalistic integrity perspective, I can post the stuff that I have. But I also feel like, I learned a lesson from Stephen Gnoza in his interaction with the BAA. These are people that I want to work with. Well, this is a brand that I want to work with. I don't know about these people, but this is a brand I want to work with. No, Albert saying now I'm now boycotting Adidas. No. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say, like, people were moving fast. And I think that the brand side and the PR side needs to step up and be more clear with us so that we know. I think next year what I'm going to do is when I set up appointments, be like, let me know what I can and can't film. And if I can't get that list, I won't go. That's kind of the thing. Like, there was a room at Solomon where that I couldn't go in they're like, you can't go in the back because you can't film in there. We have some surprises. We want to show people, but we don't want it leaking yet. I let Drew and Ashley go in there, and I was like, I'm not even going to go because I don't like that, so. Drew says, LOL at Adidas. They now owe you a Berlin bib. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, man, what's going on, Drew? Yeah, did they email you? Did they talk to you? I wouldn't even responded to that woman's message because I was like, I don't know this person. This person has like, not that like a PR person has to have a big Instagram following, but it was a very much a personal account. It was set to private and it was like 100 followers or something like that. But it said like Drew Whitcomb follows her, so I messaged her back. So Stevie76 is saying, and please pronounce Adidas this way. Well, this person's based out of Austin, so I think that person probably pronounces it the same way. Yeah. So I'm trying to play nice, and be as professional as I can and keep my emotional gut response that I really want to show you guys this stuff and talk about it because I'm really excited about it. And then the other side is like, well, I'm going to take my ball and run and I'll never cover an Adidas shoe again. Those are like the two things that I like vacillate between, but I'm trying to be more professional with Adidas. Yeah. So that those are my 3 stories plus a couple of CIM stories for today. Man. Frank says TRE has to be at least a beta release. They shouldn't send any of the alpha release stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It's fun to see everyone out there. Next year, I was telling my wife, I'm like, next year I either need to bring an assistant to help me manage all this stuff because it's just, I'm not, so much is slipping through the cracks for me too. Like as I'm going through and trying to like look through my notes, I'm like, who took these notes? This is terrible. Or like I need to go back to the way I did it last year, was like no meetings, just go through the booths and film stuff and then like attend the events. Like I don't know what I'm going to do for next year. So yeah. So it's been a wild ride, you know? Yeah. Carrie says, what's the point of having a media event and now allowing media to record? I think part of it is like, it's relationship building, so like these are the people that we're interacting with there. So like at these booths, there's like, let's not use Adidas as an example. Let's use, ASICS is not a good example either for me anymore, but let's use like Hoka, for example. So at Hoka, there are Hoka people and then there's Hoka's PR people. Last year, the people that I interacted with were mainly Hoka's PR people. And that's the case at probably half the booths. And then this year, it just happened to be that I was talking directly to like Hoka.com people, and so like in either event, the people that I'm meeting with are the people that like send me stuff that if I have questions on like, can you send me a spec sheet? What's the stack height on this? What's the weight? What's the release date? Those are the people that I'm emailing. So a big part of it is like, they know we get excited about these things, and so like, they're just like, hey, you want to see this? We brought a pair. But you can't talk about it yet. And they know that we're, as goofy as unorthodox as we are trying to be professionals. We do treat it like a job. And so, when we adhere to the rules, as long as the rules don't change on us, you can't accuse us of breaking the rules when you change the rules in the middle of the game. You know what I mean? So like, so that's the point is like, they want us to be excited because they're excited about it. And it also helps us in the media get a sense of trajectory and, and direction. Yeah. So that's kind of the idea. So, and then I think part of it is like, they know we're going to ask about it anyway, I asked like, oh, here's another one, at the Hoka booth. So we talked about, I believe I'm allowed to talk about these things. Hoka's always been good to me in terms of embargoes and stuff. I don't think they've ever asked that. I don't think they've ever put an embargo or anything, but, we talked about the Rocket X2. We talked about, Speedgoat 5 Gore-Tex, Challenger 7 Gore-Tex, which hopefully I'll be getting soon. New Clifton, and then, Transport X, which looks like it comes right from Decker's lab, but it's a walking shoe with a carbon fiber plate tuned for walkers. Really wild. It's either going to be great or miserable, either way. But like, they're like, all right, any other questions? I'm like, any updates to the mock? And they're like, have you seen all these other colors of this Challenger ATR? And I'm like, yeah, that's great. I don't love the Challenger. Maybe the Gore-Tex. But can you tell me if there's any updates to the mock? And they're like, check out this other Speedgoat color. So they kept changing this. They would never answer the question about the mock. I asked them like 3 times. And then Drew and Ashley are just talking with the same people. And I just get up and start walking away, which is kind of like a theme for me because I just have such a short attention span at these kinds of events. So I just walk around and start filming what's on the wall. And I see a mock something on the wall. And I'm like, can I film this? I usually don't ask. I usually just film. If you put it on the wall, I'm going to film it. But I I knew I've met this person. I worked with her for years now. So it's like, can we talk about this? And she was like, we're not going to be ready to talk about that quite yet. So I think it's just coming out later in the year. But there is a mock update that's super exciting. No one said that there was an embargo on me talking about it, but I did not film it out of professional courtesy. I'm trying to be professional with Adidas as well. It's frustrating. But yeah, so lots of fun stuff. Lots of fun stuff there. Yeah. Sean Devlin says, hope they don't ruin the mock, please. No. Yeah, it's really good. Mach 5, so good right now. Matthias says, take the higher road. Good stuff. You're a journalist. It's a new time now. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, I'm a journalist. And sometimes I'm like, I guess I'm a journalist, if you want to say that. I have a hard time with it. But I just feel like it's a small space. And, you know, I'm trying to work with people here, you know. But I also feel like, what they've asked for is a big ask. And I don't know if they understand that. You know, so we'll see. Yeah. All right. Lou Boy says, "Oh man, I really want to try the Adidas SL. I guess I can't now. Boycott Adidas for do not boycott Adidas. Not for this reason. I mean." I appreciate you guys and the support. I'm just letting you guys know what's going on. About the Adidas SL though, here's the thing. Here's where I feel like that shoe you got to be watch out for. Adidas sent me a pair like last week or 2 weeks ago. It's around here somewhere. Where is it? I haven't filmed it yet. I opened the box and I'm like, because they were just like, hey, would you be interested in an Adizero SL? And I'm like, ooh, oh, so like SL20, but in the Adizero line, I'm like, oh, nice. I open the box and it says on the midsole on the side, it just looks like one piece of foam. And it says Light Strike Pro. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Did they make like a carbonless Takumi-sen? You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, this could be the Boston that we've been looking for. Right? I could talk about this shoe because it's out now. So I can talk about this stuff. I'm not talking about anything that I can't talk about. So I'm complying with the embargo request, even if it came late. But so I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is going to be great. Unfortunately, I'm about to run a marathon, so like I don't know when I'm going to do a workout. Then they sent a spec sheet, or they sent the spec sheet together with it, but I didn't look at it. With like the email, with like the tracking number and stuff, but I didn't look at it. I'm looking at the spec sheet, and it's a puck. So it's like about the size of like a Zoom Air unit in a Pegasus, dropped inside a Light Strike carrier. So here, I don't know if I can talk about that. But anyway, I will, so it's not all Light Strike Pro, even though it looks like it's saying that on the side. It's a Light Strike Pro puck, like a drop-in right underneath the pads of the foot. So I feel like what it is kind of like, you know, like a premium version of the SL, which you guys know I love that shoe. And it's only $120. So it's still like a lot cheaper than a lot of the other daily trainers that are out there. And I feel like people, I'm hoping that people that liked older Pegasus and older Boston are going to like this shoe a lot. I'll refrain from my opinion on the new Boston because I can't tell you that. I tried. I did try. Well, I can't. Never mind. Oh my goodness. See, it just gets complicated. That's why, like, next year, like, if it's anything's under embargo, I'm just not going to look at it. I'm only going to look at stuff that I can put on a video. We'll see. Luis says, Adidas PR person taking notes of this live stream. Yeah. Jay-Z says, Adidas, we're watching you, Michael Coe, non-elite journalist. I really doubt that they are. I think the only reason that they know, it could be here's one of two things has happened, how they know. I think someone ratted me out. I think that's what happened. I don't think that, like, maybe my coverage got picked up by the PR people. I actually don't know. Maybe I should ask her. But I could also see someone being like, well, I'll take mine down, but look at this other guy. Kofuzi's got 60,000 views on his reel. I had a similar argument that I'd like to make but I refrained from making it because there's another video out on YouTube right now. It's been up for 5 days, but I did not name or share a link of who did that. I'm happy that the video exists, but it is very clearly one of the shoes that was mentioned under my embargo list. So I don't know. Frank wants to know if they fix the Boston. I would love to tell you about that. I can't. I can't. I'm not allowed to. Sean says, Adidas has joined the chat. Oh, man. You guys are funny. Dr. Josh says, I'm going to be in embargo jail. That's funny. That's funny. Was it Thomas who leaked your Adidas reel? It could be. It could. You know what? Thomas was commenting on the reel quite a bit. And I was like, oh, that's really nice for him to come in and, like, you know, answer some questions and talk about stuff, you know. I was like, that was really nice. But now I'm like, j'accuse. Yeah, no, I don't think it was Thomas. I don't think so. Luis says Jabba the Rat is having his revenge. It was Jabba. I know it was Jabba. Stevie76 says Kafuzi will be invited to the 2023 White House Correspondents' Dinner. Do they have that again yet? I know that they canceled it under the former guy, right? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's back. Matthias Ventis says the Clifton looks whack. I don't know. Like, to me, it looked like a regular Clifton. I know that they've updated the foam, so I'm very curious to see it because I've just been enjoying the Clifton so much. And here's another hint. I don't know. I don't think anyone from TRE is listening to this, but if anyone from TRE is listening to this, here's my tell if I'm getting bored, and I'll tell this since Drew's here, then and Tommy's here too. So if you guys are with me next time, if I start telling people like, oh, I like this shoe, or like I got this one for my mom, that means I'm just bored with the presentation and we need to move on to something else. So like when they brought out the Clifton, I took a look at it. And I was like, it looks like a Clifton. I'm sure it's going to be exciting. I won't be able to tell much until I like try it on. You know, so I'm like, all right, great, new Clifton. And it is a different foam. So I'm like, I probably should have spent more time on it. But I'm like, oh, you know what? I bought one for my wife. I got one for my mother-in-law. They're both doing their run walk thing. That's a shoe that I recommend to a lot of people for their first shoe because it's really accommodating and does a little everything and probably needs to do a little bit of daily life stuff too, you know? So that's what I said. Yeah. Eric says, Kofuzi tell, it's a nice shoe for your mom. No, that's the utmost compliment because I wouldn't give just any shoe to your mom. You know what I mean? Yeah, Drew's like, I was wondering why you told him that. I just, when I have nothing else to say and I just like, I feel like someone needs to fill space, I just start talking. Oh, that's so funny. Mika says, I put in so many kilometers in the Cliftons these past 3 to 4 years. That's probably the only shoe I'm picking up next year. I still have stacks of old stuff boxed and waiting. You know what? I'm excited for it. I think it's a big deal. I think it's huge. So, you know, as much as I'm joking about it now, like, yeah. Martha says, a nice shoe for your mom is always the Brooks Ghost. My father-in-law is now an adrenaline guy, which I finally got clarification of what's the difference between a glycerin and an adrenaline. I mean, underfoot, I can't tell you, frankly, but conceptually, I had to ask 2 times because I didn't understand the first time she explained it to me. Or no, it was another dude that explained it. But the Brooks, because I asked the question, I was like, what's the difference between the Brooks glycerin? Because if you have a glycerin GTS, why do you need an adrenaline? And he's like, oh, it's GTS. And he went into this long explanation of what the GTS is. I'm like, no. I understand the GTS. But I thought the adrenaline was a stability glycerin. Why do you need an adrenaline and an adrenaline GTS if they're all stability shoes? He's like, oh, no. The adrenaline is like a premium Ghost. And I was like, oh, yeah. I've never heard that before. So like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But okay, I'm glad to hear it straight from Brooks. So there you go. The other shoe that I bought for my mother-in-law, who, by the way, is now really mad at me because I bought her 2 shoes and she hates it when people buy her stuff. I bought her a pair of 860s, version 13s. And that's not a shoe I would have picked for her, but I looked at her shoes when I was at her house over Thanksgiving, and she had a really worn down pair of 460s. And I'm like, 460? I've never even heard of that. But seems to be that she likes the stability shoe. So I went with 860 and a Clifton for my mother-in-law. So, yeah. There we go. Martha says, that was a perfectly logical, informed question. I felt like he got it. He eventually got it. But I think he's probably answered so many questions on the GTS that he heard me say GTS and it was just like answer mode, So Martha said, did I sneak a look in the closet to look at her shoes? She keeps her shoes in the basement. And so like every time I went downstairs to get a beer, I would walk by him. So yeah. So that's how I was able to see what she has. CV76 says, Kofuzi is still their favorite son-in-law. I mean, probably not, because my brother-in-law, they live like down the street. So like he'll come and help out with like snow shoveling and like leaves and stuff like that. So like, and lifting heavy things, I'm not always there to lift the heavy things. Like when they put their patio furniture away for the winter, So, maybe I'm the sentimental favorite, but not the most useful. Yeah. Eric says, this makes sense. You keep your skeletons in the closet and the shoes in the basement. I want to tell her, like, in the winter, that's going to be a little bit, that's not an ideal place because it'll be a little chilly. Although their basement doesn't get that cold, but I don't like to keep the shoes in a cold place. AHP says, but the brother-in-law wears Adidas. The brother-in-law has been loving some Hokas. He's been rocking the Bondi. I think he's in the 7. I don't think he's in the 8. But he's been rocking the Bondi 7. He's either in Bondi 7s or Dudes. You guys familiar with that? It's like a Zubaz meets Sperry's. It's a weird shoe. I think they're really comfortable, but I don't know. They look a little bit. They're supposed to be like a sloppy, messy shoe, but I'm like, I don't think I want to wear those. Mark Peterson says, speaking of beer, my father-in-law got me one of those German beer advent calendars, and with CIM approach, I didn't start last week, so I need to catch up. Well, that sounds awesome. I didn't know that was a thing, a German beer advent calendar. I really want that. You know what I saw at Walmart the other day that I really wish I would have picked up? Now, I guess it's not too late. I can catch up. It was an advent K-cup coffee thing. It's not as interesting as a German beer advent calendar. That's a good gift. That's a really good gift. But Mark, now you're done with CIM, so you have some catching up to do. Yeah, I have not yet been in a mood to really hit the beers too hard yet. I think this week is going to be this beer. That was a Freudian slip, or a slip, not Freudian, but this week might be a little bit more relaxing. Yeah, I think I'll give myself till not this week, but maybe this week. One of my buddies is coming into town, so this weekend should be fun. Ironically, he lives in Austin now, but I didn't have a chance to see him in Austin because I was too busy. And now he's coming up here for the weekend for his work. So that'll be cool. Yeah. I'll do my own German beer advent calendar over the weekend. All right. Drew's so funny. Believe in the Run just posted an image of the Hoka Mach X. That's the one I was talking about. In case you all want to see it before Hoka makes them. I don't think Hoka's never asked me to hold anything, or they just won't show it to me. But they never asked me to take anything down before. Yeah. But everyone, I think that's a good place to end it for today. If you want to go see the Mach X, it looks amazing. It looks incredible. I can't wait to run in it. But yeah, it looks good. So go take a look at that. I don't know if they'll be in maybe this is a year where they continue the Mach 5 and then have the Mach X. Because remember when they did Bondi X, it was Bondi 7, or was it? Yeah, Bondi 7 stuck around for a little extra while longer. So maybe that's what's going on here. So I don't know if there'll be an update. It's because even though I asked 3 direct questions in a row, no one answered them. So I have no idea. But go check out the Mach X, and that's going to be it for today. Hopefully, my TRE, my Week in Austin video will come out later tonight. I'm just going to publish it whenever it's done. I'm getting near there. I'm like halfway through Thursday. So like that's pretty much the end of it. So I'm getting near there. So hopefully that'll be out like today or tomorrow. And either way, let's do another live stream tomorrow, same time as today, 1 p.m. Central Time. We'll talk more about CIM specifically tomorrow. Thank you for your patience. So hopefully I'll see you then. In the meantime, be safe out there, everybody. Thanks.